The arrival of the war beasts, the Karvath Empire, in the vast expanse of space, where stars twinkled like distant dreams, lay the Karvath Empire, a formidable interstellar civilization known for its ruthless tactics and insatiable hunger for conquest. For centuries, they had roamed from planet to planet, absorbing resources and eliminating any sapient life that stood in their way. Unlike other empires that relied on brute force or overwhelming firepower, the Karvath had perfected a more insidious method: genetically engineered creatures known as war beasts. These beasts were not mere animals. They were living weapons, crafted from the DNA of some of the most ferocious predators found across various worlds. Each beast was designed with one purpose in mind: to annihilate any intelligent life that dared to inhabit their target planets. With their advanced technology, the Karvath could deploy these creatures without fear of retaliation. After all, they had a secret weapon, a genetic safeguard that ensured these beasts would perish within 15 months of deployment. Seeding operation. The Karvath commanders had set their sights on a new prize: Earth. This lush blue planet, teeming with life, was ripe for conquest. As their stealth ships slipped silently into Earth's atmosphere, they relied solely on passive sensors to avoid detection by its primitive inhabitants. With meticulous precision, they mapped out strategic locations for their landing pods, ensuring that once released, the war beasts would find themselves close enough to major population centers to wreak havoc, but far enough away to avoid immediate discovery. With each pod deployed into the forests and mountains of Earth, the commanders felt an intoxicating thrill at what was to come. They envisioned a world stripped of its inhabitants, a planet ripe for harvesting resources without opposition. Little did they know that this time would be different. Discovery in the woods. On a warm summer day in a small town nestled near sprawling woods, 3 siblings, Sally, Frank, and Robert, set out on an adventure during their school vacation. Eager for excitement and exploration, they wandered deeper into nature than ever before. Their parents had encouraged them to embrace the great outdoors, hoping it would tire them out before dinner. As they trekked through the underbrush, laughter echoed among the trees until Sally spotted something unusual across a small creek, a strange mound covered in fur. A sense of unease washed over her as she called out to her brothers. "Frank, Robert, come back here. It could be dangerous." But curiosity got the better of them. Frank and Robert splashed through the water toward the creature. "It's okay. We want to see," shouted Frank over his shoulder. Sally hesitated, but couldn't let them go alone. "Wait! What if it's hurt?" She followed them cautiously. When they reached the creature, Sally gasped at its appearance. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. 6 legs sprouted from its body, each one distinctly different from any animal she knew. Its fur shimmered with hues of purple that seemed almost otherworldly. But what struck her most was its labored breathing and an oozing wound on one leg. Compassion amidst fear. "Look at it. It's hurt," Robert exclaimed as he crouched down beside it. Frank leaned closer, fascinated yet cautious. Sally felt a pang of sympathy for this creature despite her initial fear. "We should help it," she insisted firmly. "Let's get our emergency kit." With determination, they retrieved bandages and water from their backpacks. As they cleaned and dressed its wounds with great care, Sally spoke softly to it. "You're going to be okay." The creature seemed to respond to her voice. Its eyes flickered open briefly before closing again. After tending to its injuries, they decided it was best to take it home rather than leave it vulnerable in the woods. They named it Echo, inspired by its strange sounds that echoed through the forest as if calling out for help. Homeward bound. As they made their way home with Echo nestled carefully in their arms, Excitement mixed with anxiety filled their hearts. Their father Adam greeted them at the door with an expression that quickly turned from exasperation to concern upon seeing Echo. "What do you have there? That better be something important," he said sternly, but softened when he saw his children's worried faces. "Dad, we found this strange animal. It was hurt," Robert exclaimed proudly while trying to keep Echo steady. Adam's brow furrowed deeper as he examined Echo closely. "What do you mean, strange? How many legs does it have?" "6," Frank chimed in enthusiastically. Adam's expression hardened further as realization dawned upon him. This was not just any animal. This was something extraordinary and potentially dangerous. Unbeknownst threats. Meanwhile, high above Earth in orbit around their target planet, the Karvath commanders awaited reports from their deployed war beasts. They anticipated swift victory over this primitive world, but remained oblivious to how resilient humanity could be when faced with danger. The stage was set for an unprecedented clash between two worlds, the ferocious war beasts unleashed upon Earth and three young siblings who unknowingly held within them a spark of hope for humanity's survival against an overwhelming threat. As night fell over Earth, darkness cloaked both sides. Little did anyone know that this was only just beginning, a battle for survival where ingenuity would clash against raw power in ways no one could predict. The awakening. Chaos unleashed. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the landscape, the first signs of chaos began to unfold. The war beasts, once dormant in their hidden pods, awoke with a primal hunger. Their senses sharpened, and instinct drove them to seek out the nearest sources of life. The Karvath Empire's plan had commenced, and Earth was about to witness a nightmare. In the small town where Sally, Frank, and Robert lived, the evening air was filled with laughter and the smell of barbecues. Families gathered in backyards, unaware of the impending doom. Suddenly, a guttural roar shattered the calm, sending waves of panic rippling through the streets. The siblings stood frozen in their yard as they heard the sound echoing from the woods. "What was that?" Sully asked, her heart racing. "I don't know, but it sounded big," Frank replied, his eyes wide with fear. "Let's go check it out," Robert exclaimed, always eager for an adventure. "No way. We should stay here," Sully insisted. But her brothers were already running toward the tree line, driven by curiosity. Echoes bond. As they approached the woods, they could hear more roars and crashing sounds. The once peaceful forest had transformed into a scene of chaos. Trees splintered under immense weight as war beasts emerged from their hiding spots, their forms hulking and terrifying. They were a mix of predatory features, sharp claws, massive jaws filled with teeth like daggers, and eyes that glowed with an unnatural light. But amidst the terror, Echo stirred within the makeshift shelter they had created at home. The creature had been resting after their earlier encounter. As it sensed its brethren awakening nearby, something deep within it ignited, a protective instinct toward its newfound human friends. "Echo, come on," Frank shouted as he waved his arms frantically for the creature to follow them. To their amazement, Echo bounded after them with surprising agility for its size. It let out a low growl that resonated with both fear and determination. As they reached the edge of the woods, they could see one of the war beasts charging toward a group of terrified townspeople. "Run!" Sally screamed as she pulled her brothers back, just in time to avoid being seen by the creature. The first encounter. The war beast lunged at a man who had been grilling in his backyard just moments before. Its claws swiped through the air with deadly precision, but missed as he stumbled backward in shock. In that instant of chaos, Echo stepped forward instinctively to protect its human friends. With a fierce growl that echoed through the trees, Echo leaped into action. It charged at the war beast with surprising speed and agility for its size. The two creatures collided with a thunderous impact that sent shockwaves through the ground. Sally watched in awe as Echo fought valiantly against its kin. "It's fighting for us," she exclaimed. Frank and Robert cheered for their companion, but quickly realized that while Echo was strong, it was still outmatched by sheer numbers. More war beasts emerged from the shadows of the forest. They were drawn to the commotion like moths to a flame. "We need to help Echo," Robert shouted over the chaos. "No, we have to get everyone to safety first," Sally insisted as she grabbed her brother's arms and pulled them back toward their house. Rallying humanity. As they ran through their neighborhood, they could see people pouring out of their homes in confusion and fear. The once peaceful town had transformed into a battleground overnight. Parents called for their children while others frantically dialed emergency services that would never arrive in time. "Everyone, get inside. Lock your doors." Adam's voice rang out as he joined other neighbors trying to organize a response. Sally's heart raced as she spotted her father leading groups of people towards safety while keeping an eye on Echo's fight against its brethren. "Dad, we have to help Echo," she yelled. Adam turned sharply at his daughter's plea, but quickly shook his head. "No, it's too dangerous. We need to protect ourselves first." "But Echo is one of us now. It saved us," Frank argued passionately. Before Adam could respond, another roar echoed through the air, this one closer than before. A massive war beast had broken away from Echo's fight and was now heading straight toward them. "Run!" Adam shouted again as he ushered everyone inside while grabbing his children by their hands. A plan forms. Inside their home, panic ensued as families huddled together in fear. Sally felt helpless watching from a window as Echo continued to battle multiple war beasts alone. "We can't just sit here," she cried out. "We need a plan," Adam said firmly as he gathered everyone around him in their living room. "If we work together, we can distract them long enough for Echo to escape." Sally nodded vigorously. "We can use our lights. Flashlights can confuse them." The adults exchanged wary glances, but saw determination in Sally's eyes, the same fire that had led her to rescue Echo in the first place. "All right," Adam said reluctantly. "Everyone grab your flashlights and anything else you can find that makes noise." As families scurried around gathering supplies, Sally felt a surge of hope ignite within her. They might be scared, but together they could make a difference. The distraction. Once everyone was ready, Adam led them outside again into the chaos unfolding just beyond their yard. They formed a line along the edge of their property facing where Echo was still engaged in combat with two enormous war beasts. "On my count," Adam instructed firmly as he raised his flashlight high above his head. 3, 2, 1, now. With that command, every flashlight clicked on simultaneously, illuminating the night sky with beams of light dancing wildly across the ground and trees around them. The sudden brightness startled both humans and beasts alike. Even Echo paused momentarily at this unexpected display. "Make noise. Yell. Bang pots," Adam shouted as he joined in on creating distraction tactics alongside his children and neighbors. The cacophony erupted into shouts and clattering sounds that echoed through the darkness like thunderclaps, an unyielding force against nature itself. A moment of hope. The war beasts hesitated momentarily under this unexpected assault from Earth's inhabitants. Confusion etched across their monstrous faces as they turned toward this new threat, rather than focusing solely on Echo. Seeing this opportunity unfold before her eyes made Sally's heart race faster than ever before. She knew this was their chance. "Echo, this way," she called out loudly, while waving her arms frantically at her friend, who seemed momentarily confused by all that was happening around him. With renewed vigor fueled by hope and determination from those who cared for him most deeply, Echo charged towards them despite being heavily outnumbered moments earlier. Together, they fought against overwhelming odds, a testament not only to human resilience, but also an embodiment of unity between species forged through compassion amid adversity. As chaos unfolded around them, the battle between humanity's ingenuity against primal instincts raged on. The stage was set for an extraordinary alliance that would change everything. Alliance with Echo. The calm before the storm. In the days following the chaotic night of the war beast's emergence, the small town began to find a fragile sense of normalcy. Families stayed indoors, barricading doors and windows, while whispers of fear and uncertainty filled the air. The news spread like wildfire, warning of strange creatures roaming the woods, and many townsfolk chose to evacuate. But for Sally, Frank, Robert, and their father Adam, there was no turning back. They had formed an unlikely bond with Echo, the war beast they had rescued. As they gathered in their living room, the atmosphere was tense but hopeful. Echo lay curled up in a corner, its deep purple fur shimmering softly in the dim light. The children had taken it upon themselves to care for Echo, feeding it scraps from their meals and tending to its wounds. Each day that passed strengthened their connection with the creature. It was no longer just an animal, but a friend and ally. "Do you think Echo will help us fight?" Robert asked one afternoon as he tossed a piece of bread toward their companion. Sally nodded thoughtfully. "I think it wants to protect us. It fought for us before." Adam watched his children interact with Echo, feeling a mix of pride and concern. "We need to be careful. Those beasts out there are dangerous," he reminded them gently. "But we can't just hide forever," Frank exclaimed. "If we don't do something, they'll take over our town." Training begins. Determined to prepare for whatever might come next, Sally proposed an idea that excited her brothers. "What if we trained Echo? We can teach it commands and how to work with us." Adam raised an eyebrow, but saw the spark in his children's eyes. "Training a creature like Echo is risky. We don't know how it will react." "We have to try," Sally insisted. "It's our best chance." After some discussion, Adam reluctantly agreed to supervise their training sessions. They started small, teaching Echo basic commands like sit and stay. To their surprise, Echo responded quickly, its intelligent eyes watching them closely as if it understood their intentions. Each day after school, they would venture into their backyard with treats in hand, encouraging Echo to follow their lead. The creature seemed eager to please them, and with each successful command, their bond deepened. "Look, it's learning," Frank shouted one afternoon as Echo executed a perfect rollover after being prompted. Sally grinned widely. "We're going to make a great team." The call to action. As days turned into weeks, reports of war beasts attacking nearby towns reached them through radio broadcasts. The situation was escalating quickly. Humanity was on the brink of panic. Adam knew they couldn't remain idle any longer. One evening after dinner, he gathered his children around him again. "We need a plan," he said seriously. "If those creatures are coming this way, we have to be ready." "What if we set traps?" Robert suggested eagerly. "Or create distractions," Frank added. Sally thought for a moment before speaking up. "What if we used Echo? We could have it lead them away while we help people escape." Adam considered this carefully. "That could work, but only if we can ensure Echo's safety." The siblings exchanged determined glances. They were ready for action. Preparing for battle, over the next few days, They devised a strategy that involved using Echo's strengths against the war beasts. They gathered supplies from around their home, old pots and pans for noise-making devices and flashlights for distraction tactics. "Let's set up near the edge of town," Sally suggested one afternoon while they mapped out their plan on paper. "If we can lure them away from where people are hiding, then we can help everyone escape." Frank finished her thought excitedly. With each passing day, tension mounted as they prepared for what lay ahead. They practiced commands with Echo relentlessly, teaching it how to respond quickly when called upon during an emergency. "I believe in you," Sally whispered one night as she stroked Echo's fur before bed. The creature looked up at her with understanding in its eyes. The day of reckoning. The fateful day arrived when they heard distant roars echoing from the woods again, a grim reminder that time was running out. As darkness fell over the town once more, fear settled heavily in the air. "Tonight is our chance," Adam said firmly as he gathered his children close before they set out into the night armed with flashlights and makeshift weapons made from household items. They moved cautiously toward the edge of town where they had planned their ambush, Echo walking beside them like a loyal guardian ready for battle. As they reached their designated spot near an old barn on the outskirts of town, they could hear rustling sounds coming from within the trees, a sign that war beasts were approaching. "Get ready," Adam whispered urgently as he positioned himself behind a stack of crates alongside his children and Echo. The first encounter. Suddenly, out of the shadows emerged two massive war beasts, each one larger than any animal they had ever seen before. Their eyes glowed ominously as they scanned the area for signs of life. "Now," Adam shouted as he flicked on his flashlight and waved it wildly in front of him while banging two pots together loudly. Echo instinctively sprang into action at the sound of its human companions' voices, charging forward with a fierce growl that echoed through the night air. The war beasts turned toward this unexpected challenge. Confusion flickered across their monstrous faces before they lunged at Echo with terrifying speed. "No, Echo!" Sally cried out as she watched her friend face off against its kin once more. But this time it wasn't alone. It had allies fighting alongside it. A battle for survival. What ensued was chaos. A whirlwind of growls and shouts filled the air as Sally and her brothers joined forces with Echo against these formidable foes. "Distract them. Over here," Frank yelled as he waved his flashlight wildly while Robert threw rocks toward another approaching beast. With each command given to Echo during this fray, the creature responded valiantly, dodging attacks while countering with powerful strikes against its enemies. Sally felt her heart race as she witnessed this incredible display of teamwork unfold before her eyes. Humanity united with nature in an unprecedented battle against overwhelming odds. But even amidst this chaos, fear lingered within her heart. Would they be able to hold back these savage beasts long enough for others to escape? An unexpected turn. As they fought bravely against these monstrous foes, the tide began to turn unexpectedly when more townsfolk emerged from hiding, armed with whatever makeshift weapons they could find. Together they rallied around Sally's family, creating a wall of resistance against these invaders who threatened everything they held dear. With renewed strength fueled by hope, the humans fought back fiercely alongside Echo, each person lending their voice and courage into this fight for survival. And just when it seemed like victory might slip from their grasp, the tide shifted once more. As echoes of determination filled the night air, a new alliance forged between humans and beasts emerged, a testament not only to resilience but also unity amid chaos. Would this newfound strength be enough? Only time would tell. The turning point. A new strategy. The battle against the war beasts had ignited a fierce determination within the townspeople. As they rallied around Echo and the children, A sense of unity emerged that had been absent before. The humans were no longer just passive victims. They were fighters, ready to defend their home. In the days following the initial confrontation, Adam organized meetings with the remaining townsfolk. They gathered in the old community center, a place that once hosted celebrations but now served as a war room. Maps of the area were spread across tables, and everyone contributed ideas on how to combat the war beasts. "We need to understand their behavior," Adam suggested one evening. "If we can predict what they'll do next, we might be able to outsmart them." Sally, sitting beside her brothers, raised her hand. "What if we set up a bait system? We could lure them away from where people are hiding." "That's a great idea." Frank chimed in. "We could use sounds or lights to draw them in." Robert nodded enthusiastically. "And Echo could help us. It knows how to fight them." The group buzzed with excitement as they discussed their plan. They decided to create distractions using loud noises and bright lights to lead the war beasts into traps set up around town. Building the traps. The following days were filled with preparation. The townsfolk worked tirelessly, gathering materials from abandoned buildings and homes. They constructed makeshift traps using ropes, nets, and anything they could find that would ensnare the creatures. Sally took charge of designing the bait. "We can use old radios to play sounds that mimic distressed animals," she suggested. "It'll attract them." As they worked together, Sally felt a sense of camaraderie growing among everyone involved. Neighbors who had once kept to themselves were now sharing stories and laughter as they built their defenses side by side. Echo watched closely as they constructed traps and tested various sounds. It seemed to understand their intentions, its intelligent eyes reflecting an understanding far beyond that of a typical animal. The first trap. After several days of hard work, the townspeople had set up their first trap at the edge of the woods where the war beasts had been spotted most frequently. They placed an old radio inside a clearing and rigged it to play sounds of distress on a loop. "Now we wait," Adam said as he surveyed their handiwork. "If this works, we'll have our first chance to capture one of them." That night, everyone gathered at a safe distance, watching anxiously from behind trees and bushes. The moonlight cast eerie shadows across the forest floor as they waited for any signs of movement. Hours passed with only silence filling the air until suddenly, there it was, a massive war beast emerged from the darkness, drawn by the sounds echoing through the trees. "It's working," Robert whispered excitedly as he gripped his flashlight tightly. As the creature approached cautiously, Echo stood beside Sally, growling softly in anticipation. The tension in the air was palpable. This was their moment, the capture. The war beast moved closer to the bait, sniffing curiously at the radio while its massive form loomed over it like a dark cloud. Just as it leaned down to investigate further, Adam signaled for everyone to spring into action. "Now!" he shouted. The townsfolk rushed forward, pulling ropes that had been hidden among the underbrush. The net flew over the war beast in an instant, ensnaring it before it could react. The creature thrashed violently against its restraints, letting out an ear-splitting roar that echoed through the night. But with teamwork and determination, they managed to keep it contained long enough for Echo to approach cautiously. "Stay back," Adam commanded as he stepped forward with his flashlight aimed at the beast's eyes. "We're not here to hurt you." With Echo by his side, Adam tried to calm both his eyes and their captive. Slowly but surely, he began speaking softly to it while Echo emitted low growls that seemed almost soothing. Understanding their enemy, as minutes passed and adrenaline faded away into cautious curiosity, the war beast began to settle down slightly under Adam's calming presence and Echo's reassuring growls. "What do we do now?" Frank asked breathlessly as he watched in awe. We need to learn from it, Adam replied thoughtfully. If we can understand how these creatures think or what drives them, we might find a way to coexist. Sally stepped closer, her heart racing with excitement and fear alike. Do you think it can understand us? Adam nodded slowly as he observed how Echo interacted with their captive. There was an undeniable connection forming between them all. With careful movements, he approached cautiously, extending his hand toward the restrained creature while maintaining eye contact, hoping for some sign of recognition or understanding. To everyone's surprise, the war beast paused its thrashing. Its glowing eyes softened slightly as it regarded Adam with curiosity instead of aggression. A glimmer of hope. This is incredible, Robert exclaimed quietly as he watched his father connect with something so powerful yet so misunderstood. As they continued observing, the creature seemed less like an enemy and more like a victim of circumstance, an embodiment of nature caught in an unnatural conflict between two worlds. We need to give it a name, Sally suggested suddenly, a spark igniting within her mind at this momentous occasion. How about Raven? Frank proposed after seeing how dark its fur looked under moonlight, a fitting name for such a formidable creature. Raven it is, Adam agreed with a smile, his heart swelling with pride at what they had accomplished together as a community united against adversity. Lessons learned over time. The townspeople began learning more about Raven, the captured war beast, as well as Echo's behavior during training sessions alongside it. They discovered there was much more beneath these creatures' terrifying exteriors than anyone had ever imagined. Through careful observation, they noted patterns in Raven's movements, how it reacted when startled or threatened, and eventually found ways for both beasts to communicate through body language rather than relying solely on brute force. As days turned into weeks, the bond between humans and these creatures grew stronger, creating an unexpected alliance forged through understanding rather than fear, a testament not only to resilience but also compassion amid chaos. Preparing for battle again, but even amidst this newfound hope, Adam knew that their fight wasn't over yet. There were still more war beasts lurking within those dark woods waiting for another chance at destruction. With Raven now part of their team, they began strategizing again, this time focusing on using both Echo's agility along with Raven's strength to devise new tactics against any remaining threats looming just beyond sight. As humanity prepared for what lay ahead, a new chapter unfolded before them filled with possibilities unlike anything they'd ever known before. A journey toward coexistence amidst chaos. Would this alliance be enough? Only time would tell. Humanity strikes back. The calm before the storm. As the sun rose over the small town, a sense of determination filled the air. The previous weeks had transformed the once quiet community into a hub of activity and preparation. Families worked together to fortify their homes, while the bond between humans and their newfound allies, Echo and Raven, grew stronger. The townspeople had learned to communicate with the war beasts, understanding their behaviors and instincts. Sally, Frank, Robert, and their father Adam had become leaders in this fight for survival. They spent countless hours strategizing with their neighbors, preparing for the inevitable confrontation with the remaining war beasts. Each day brought new challenges, but also new opportunities for growth and resilience. Today's the day we take back our town, Adam announced at a morning meeting in the community center. We've trained hard, and we know our enemy better than ever. With Echo and Raven by our side, we have a chance. The townsfolk nodded in agreement, their faces set with determination. They had seen what Echo and Raven could do in battle, and they were ready to fight alongside them. The final preparations. As they gathered supplies for the upcoming battle, Sally felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. What if something goes wrong? She asked her brothers as they prepared their gear. Frank shrugged but smiled reassuringly. "We faced worse. Remember how we captured Raven? We can do anything if we work together." Robert chimed in, "And we have Echo. It's like having our own superhero." Their spirits lifted by each other's confidence, they joined their father in organizing weapons and traps around town. They set up barricades made from old furniture and debris to channel the war beasts toward designated areas where they could be trapped or fought more easily. "We need to lure them out," Adam explained as he laid out their plan on a large map spread across the table. "If we can draw them into this open field, we can use our traps effectively." Sally pointed to a spot on the map. "What if we set off fireworks here? The noise will attract them." "Great idea," Frank exclaimed. "And we can use flashlights again to guide them into the traps." The group worked tirelessly throughout the day, ensuring everything was in place for their plan to succeed. As night fell, they gathered one last time to go over their strategy. The night of reckoning. With darkness enveloping the town, tension hung thick in the air. The townspeople took their positions, each person knowing their role in this crucial moment. Sally stood beside her brothers, heart pounding with anticipation as they prepared to face the war beasts. "Remember," Adam said firmly, "stay close to Echo and Raven. They'll help us navigate through this chaos." The first firework shot into the sky, a brilliant explosion of color that lit up the night. The sound echoed through the trees, drawing attention from deep within the woods. "Here they come," Robert shouted as shadows moved among the trees. As expected, several war beasts emerged from the darkness, drawn by the noise and light. Their massive forms loomed closer, eyes glowing ominously as they approached. "Now," Adam commanded as he flicked on his flashlight and waved it wildly. The townsfolk sprang into action, shouting and banging pots together to create a cacophony of sound that would keep the creatures focused on them rather than fleeing back into the woods. The battle begins. Echo charged forward with a fierce growl while Raven followed closely behind, both creatures ready to defend their human allies against this new threat. The war beasts lunged at Echo first. Massive claws swiped through the air as it dodged expertly, countering with powerful strikes of its own. Sally watched in awe as her friend fought valiantly against its kin. "Keep them distracted," she yelled to her brothers as she joined Adam at a barricade. Frank threw rocks at one of the approaching beasts while Robert aimed his flashlight directly at its eyes to disorient it. "Over here. This way," Frank shouted excitedly as he waved his arms frantically. Just then, another firework exploded overhead, sending sparks flying across the sky and causing more war beasts to emerge from hiding. "This is working," Sally exclaimed as she saw several creatures being led toward their traps.